they're going ahead with the case against Julian Assange. They're putting journalism on trial. And so what people will say is that Julian Assange is a hacker. He's not a journalist. That's all bullshit from the government. That's garbage. And you know how I know for 100,000% sure it's garbage? Because a guy like Chris Hayes even gets it. A guy who will willfully do propaganda at the top of his lungs, red baiting, McCarthy smearing, saber rattling with nuclear powers. He'll do all of it. Even he knows that prosecuting Julian Assange makes our entire, not only journalism, a risky thing to do, but it's very perilous for our entire country. Here's what he has to say about Julian Assange being prosecuted, which they're going at. I think it starts Monday. Here we go.
Click it again.
Why is it not?
Today, the Trump administration announced new criminal charges for Julian Assange. This is the second round of charges. The first did not indict Assange for publishing classified material, but instead alleged that he sought to aid in the actual hacking of a government password, which, if true, clearly isn't protected by the First Amendment. Quoting from the first indictment, to knowingly access a computer without authorization and exceeding authorized access. Now, today's indictment is different. It charges Assange under the 1917 Espionage Act, which is a terrible piece of legislation passed during the first Red Scare and rife for governmental abuse. The charge is that his publishing of classified information.
I like how he says during the first Red Scare. And then, of course, the second Red Scare came along with McCarthy. And, of course, the third Red Scare is being pushed by me and Rachel Maddow.
Information itself violated the act, stating that Assange, WikiLeaks affiliates, and Manning shared the common objective to subvert lawful restrictions on classified information and to publicly disseminate it. That's according to the indictment. This is, to put it bluntly, wrong, unconstitutional, and downright tyrannical.
What about all those Democrats? What about Joy Reid? What about all those news hosts who tell you that, no, WikiLeaks is not they should prosecute him. He's working with the Russians. He's a red. What about all those people who say that stuff? And now Chris Hayes tells you this is tyrannical. It's unconstitutional. Let's get that again. That was a nice.
Is, to put it bluntly, wrong, unconstitutional, and downright tyrannical.
Wrong, unconstitutional, and downright tyrannical. So if you hear anybody saying anything other than that, you know they are a willing dupe or a paid stooge, like Jim Acosta. Anybody saying anything other than that, because this isn't about saving Julian Assange. This is about saving democracy. This is about saving journalism. This is about ending war crimes. So the guy who exposed the war crimes is in prison. The guys who did the war crimes aren't. Barack Obama made sure that happened. Never prosecuted war criminals. Tried every way to Sunday to try to find a way to prosecute Julian Assange, but he couldn't. Here's Chris Hayes again.
If Assange's publishing of classified information runs afoul of the law, so does the work of just about every single serious press outlet, this one included. The First Amendment protects the big.
I think you'd be safe, Chris. I don't think you guys are ever going to be breaking any controversial stories. I don't think you're in trouble. But anybody doing actual journalism would be.
Right of a free press and a free people to publish truthful information about matters of public import, whether the government likes it or not. Classified information is a category for those who work for the state, not for those of us in civil society. In fact, the Obama administration had actually considered charges of precisely this kind, but ultimately concluded it would violate the First Amendment and have an intolerably destructive effect on the free press. As the Washington Post reported back in November 2013, justice officials said they looked hard at Assange, but realized that they have what they described as a New York Times problem. If the Justice Department indicted Assange, it would also have to prosecute the New York Times and other news organizations and writers who published classified material.
Turns out they don't have to do that. Turns out they can selectively enforce the law. Turns out they don't have to do that. Turns out the Justice Department doesn't have to prosecute the New York Times. Why? Because the New York Times does the bidding of the establishment whenever they're asked. The establishment meaning the goddamn White House. So they're not going to prosecute the New York Times or anybody else who published that stuff. Just Julian Assange.
This administration, of course, has no such reservations. The president's been calling the press the enemy of the people for years, and now his hand-picked attorney general, fresh off of covering the president's tracks, is sicking the power of the DOJ on potentially every single news outlet in the country.
So there you go. I don't know why it stopped there. But there you go. Even he gets it. Even he's allowed to tell the truth about this on MSNBC. That's how effed up this is. MSNBC is telling you the truth about WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. What? That's how clear-cut this is. Not even close. Not even close. Here's what Amnesty International says. They say, the right to freedom of expression and access to information must be protected. Sign our petition to urge the U.S. authorities to drop the charges against Julian Assange and stem solely from his publishing activities in WikiLeaks. So you understand what Chris Hayes was saying, that it's not a crime for citizens to expose crimes of our government, with even if it's classified material. That's for the government employees. That's not for us. The government works for us. We don't work for the government. Ideally, I mean, that's on paper. So there's Amnesty International. That's Chris Hayes. Here's what Amnesty International says. Authorities in the U.S. must drop the espionage and all other charges against Julian Assange that relate to his publishing activities as part of his work with WikiLeaks. The U.S. government's unrelenting pursuit of Julian Assange for having published disclosed documents that included possible war crimes committed by the U.S. military is nothing short of full-scale assault on the rights to freedom of expression. That's it. That's what this whole country's built on. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression. It's a whole country. Not only did Barack Obama torture the truth teller, Chelsea Manning, but now our government is prosecuting the guy who published it. Former Guardian, here's someone else who gets it. Former Guardian editor Alan Rushbridger has said that the ongoing U.S. extradition case against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is disturbing and has worrying implications for all journalists. And he said it is surprising that more don't share his concerns. Surprising? Not surprising. Why? Because journalism are a bunch of fucking go-along career climbers. Almost no one gets into journalism to be a journalist anymore. No one gives a shit about a story. They're all career climbers. That's why journalism sucks. That's why the entirety of it did fucking red-baiting McCarthyism and did an evidence-free conspiracy theory for 4 years straight and are still doing it. So I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that anybody is standing up for him. That's how shitty journalism is. I'm surprised anybody is standing up for him. It's quite disturbing. It's quite a disturbing thing that we should send somebody to another country for supposedly breaking their laws on secrecy. If journalists are not concerned by that, then I think they should be, said Russ Bridger, pointing in particular to the collateral murder video that showed a U.S. air attack in Iraq that killed 12 people, including 2 Reuters media workers. Any newspaper would have been thrilled to run that story, said Russ Bridger. It was really, truly shocking story in the public interest. So you know the story they're talking about. That was them revealing the helicopter pilots go and celebrating as they kill innocent people and do double taps. What is a double tap? So they go and shoot a bunch of innocent people, And then when the ambulance comes to help them, they shoot everybody in the ambulance. That's called a double tap. Russ Bridger said he feared Assange's extradition case was the thin end of the wedge, and that governments around the world, including the United States, the UK, and Australia, have already or are itching to outlaw any kind of reporting about national security. "169 lawyers and legal groups joined calls for Julian Assange's extradition to halt. Lawyers and legal academics have called on the UK government to end extradition proceedings against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange and release him from prison." So do you understand what's happening? We have 100% corrupt governments. This is the war machine wanting to prosecute Julian Assange, the for-profit war machine, which makes trillions of dollars a year, is making sure their puppets in government in the UK and the United States prosecute whistleblowers who talk about war crimes and illegal wars. Why? Because they want to get rid of them so they could do more war crimes and more illegal wars because there's a lot of money in it. And 169 lawyers and legal groups joined calls for Julian Assange's extradition to halt. Jim Acosta is still not sure about it, though. The Democratic Party still McCarthy smearing, still the scum of the earth. Joy, of course, Joy Ann Reid is. We call on you to act in accordance with national and international law. So do you understand our government is a criminal? Our government is filled with criminals, and now the criminals are trying to silence the witness. Just like cops do when they get caught on the take, they try to silence the witness. That's what the government's doing. The government is illegally prosecuting Julian Assange against the principles that this country was built on in order to cover up their own crimes and to continue them going forward. That's what's happening. We are a failed state. We are living in a criminal country run by flat-out criminals, not hyperbole. Donald Trump is a criminal. And Donald Trump prosecuting Julian Assange makes him an even worse criminal. And why the people on the right give Donald Trump a pass for this just goes to show you they're just as fucking feckless as all the goddamn Biden voters. They are no better. You support Trump and you don't fucking piss on him for this, you don't hold his feet to the fire for this, then you're just as big a fucking wimp as anybody voting for Joe Biden or who voted for Hillary Clinton. You're just a big a traitor to your own country. You're going to give Trump a pass for this? Why are you giving Trump a pass for this on the right? Because they're telling you to? Think for yourself, you lemming, and hold Trump's feet to the fire. But you won't. Just like the fucking left won't hold Joe Biden's feet to the fire, which is why we have the shit country we're in. Because nobody on the left or right will fucking do what they're supposed to. They give in to corruption. And they literally think that there's an opposition party. They really think that there's people opposed to each other in this country who run things. You're such